Two, one. Here we go. Recorded a little bit early. Welcome back to Pave The Way podcast. I'm your host, Greg Hellbeck, and today I am with my buddy Jesse Burrell out of freezing cold Phoenix, Arizona. How you doing, buddy?
Good. How are you, bud?
I'm good. I'm just glad to have you. Glad to have you on the show today. You know, really excited. I met Jesse, I would say about 4 or 5 months ago now at an event, and we connected. And then I ended up flying out to his office for the day, hung out with him. So it was fun getting to know him. And fun fact here, where he's coming from today, I was in his new office, which was under construction at the time when I was in Phoenix. So I'm really excited to get back there and see the finished product, because that thing looked like a real cool building once it was ready to roll. So it looks like you're sitting pretty there in Phoenix now in that beautiful room you got behind you.
Absolutely. I'm excited to have you back. I want to do some more videos with you for sure. It was an absolute blast having you.
That was awesome. And that was also my first ever one-day flight. I got up in San Diego and went to bed in San Diego and did my first one-day flight. I felt like an official businessman doing that, you know? So it was cool.
I know. I was like, hey, man, I want you to come out. I'll book your flight. You're like, really? And I'm like, I'm super busy. You're super busy. I'm like, let's just do a day flight. You came in at 8 a.m., left at 5 p.m. It was just like a work day. That
was right. Yeah. And that's funny. So it's funny, actually, quick story before we get going on the show. So, there was that, I don't know if you know this, but in San Diego, there was like a shark attack. Like, I think it was last summer, there was like a shark attack. I happened to be sitting next to this dude whose neighbor got bit by the shark. So I had like this crazy conversation.
Wow.
Yeah. It was like, yeah, like they were okay. But like, it was like, I was like, holy crap, this is crazy. So I learned that on the flight too, flying to Phoenix. So interesting, a bit random. But anyway, let's kick the show off here. So Jesse, let's kind of give everyone a little bit about your background. Like, what did you do? Because you got some successful companies now, but it wasn't always like that. So just give us your background before you got into the actual real estate business, and then we'll talk about what you have going on today.
Man, I mean, I didn't get into real estate till I was 28, and I'm 34. So I've been in it for about 6 years. So, 18 to 28 was a pretty interesting journey for sure. 18 to 21, 22, I was trying to play professional poker online back when you were able to do that. So that was my dream then. And then I've been serving tables and bussing tables since I was 18, and I pretty much did that up until real estate. I was also working at some golf courses. I was going to school trying to get into the golf industry and getting my bachelor in business. And I learned very quickly that there wasn't a lot of money to be made. And I started coming up with this mantra saying, I don't want to work at the golf course. I want to be a member at one. And then it's kind of a mindset shift. I was like, what am I doing? I'm like getting up at 4 a.m. and making $2,500 a month, working 45 hours a week. I was like, this is not what I signed up for.
No, totally, man. So you wanted to be did you want to be I remember I used to work at a golf course when I was like 17 or 18. So this is a while ago now. Did you want to be a golf pro, even though like that's not a PGA player? It's like the pro on the course. Is that what you're looking at?
So you're still getting certified and having to do all this stuff. So I wanted to be like a teaching pro, and we'll kind of go into teaching and coaching a little bit later, because now I'm able to do it. It's just for something totally different. I always just wanted to help people. I guess I just didn't know with what, and it kind of just naturally happened because it fits my personality, I suppose.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So you did that. So what was kind of like your breaking point? Like when did you realize, like, you're waiting tables, you're working at a golf course, you're 20 years old or whatever, or actually older than that, because you didn't get into the business till 28. What was your breaking point where you kind of drew the line in the sand and said, you know what, I've had it. I'm ready to make a change. And then how did you make that change and eventually break into this business?
Yeah. So I was finishing college. So I got like my associates when I was younger, and then I moved to Arizona when I was 24.
Okay.
And went back to school to get my business degree, and pretty much the associate's degree I got back from home was useless. It was like some fine arts degree. So I pretty much had to do like 4 years of school again. It was once I was finishing up school and did all my internships for golf, I was just like, I took some entrepreneurial classes, and that's kind of what sparked my interest, was my high level classes for, growing businesses, small business ownership. And I kind of just fell ass backwards into my friend that she just got into real estate, working for an investor that was flipping and holding rental properties. And she's just like, yo, this is really cool. I think you'd be good at it. Do you want a job? And I was like, sure.
So what were you doing? Yeah. What was that? That's interesting.
So what I was doing, I was helping lease out like rental properties, but mostly I got really lucky because my job was to sit there all day and underwrite deals on the MLS. We still had short sales back then, and we had, pre-foreclosures. So I got to go to the properties, learn how to construction, which was amazing. So I was learning rehab costs, learning what price we needed it at and how to make a profit. So I pretty much was doing pro formas and not even knowing what pro formas were, but I was sitting there just underwriting deals and figuring out, he wants to make X amount of dollars or X amount of percent. And I sat there for a year and that's all I did. It was absolutely probably the best thing I could have done because once I got into real estate, I really understood it when I went on my own.
Yeah. So it's funny you said that. I want to kind of pause there real quick because it's something I think a lot of new investors, they have this issue where they want to get in the business and they might be motivated, but you could just be motivated and still not know what you're doing. So when you got into the business, clearly you wanted to make a change, but you spent a whole year getting good at a skill. In this case, it was underwriting deals and truly finding out why a deal made sense and then how you could obviously sell that to someone because you knew what you were doing. And that obviously served you as as an investor now. And there's a book called So Good They Can't Ignore You by Cal Newport. It's a really good book. And the thesis of that book is like, if you want to make a lot of money and be successful, you need to build up something called career capital, which is having rare and valuable skills that you can use in the market to make the money you want to make. So that's exactly what you did for the first year is you got your career capital going. You understood how to, underwrite deals. And then that gave you a big advantage, I bet, as you started to break off onto your own. So what made you kind of quit the real estate job and then decide to become an entrepreneur? And then maybe if you could share kind of what your first deal looked like so some of the listeners can relate.
I got laid off because he was.
Oh, no way. No way.
No, not fired or anything. They're just like, they were selling off all their rental, literally laid off. Like they let me know a few months of asset. He lives in California, so he was selling all their whole rental portfolio. He obviously did this a little early, but that was before wholesaling was popular. So we didn't really know how to find off-market deals. So, and he was stopping flipping because it started to get hard. It was harder and harder to find deals on the MLS.
Yeah.
So he's like, hey man, we're kind of shutting down the operation. So I got my real estate license is what I was doing at that time. And I just kept doing what I was doing. I had a few investors that wanted properties and I was just coming to MLS trying to negotiate deals for them is what I started doing. So I was wholesaling, I guess, and I didn't know I was doing that at the time. And then it kept getting harder and harder. And I partnered with my first two partners and then we started, learning wholesale. So we were trying to find flips. We found out of Sean Terry, like the OG, as everybody does.
Yeah.
And, we started sending direct mail and started going direct to seller. And then it transitioned from trying to find flips to wholesaling, or both, actually.
Okay. So you pivoted from on-market stuff to off-market stuff, which is a completely different business. And we're going to spend some time today talking about the marketing. So, I appreciate you sharing that with the listeners because now that they have some good context. So let's kind of fast forward now and then we'll start taking some steps back. What does your business look like today on the real estate side? Like the actual real estate business, like what exit strategies are you doing? And then what is like your kind of overall volume per month look like so people can tell that, can see that you're a serious player in a serious market, Phoenix?
Yeah, we're doing anywhere from probably like 12 to 18 deals a month, wholesale wise.
That's
awesome. Our operation consists of, it's not very big. We have 2 acquisition reps, a lead manager, a disposition, and then we have 10 full-time cold callers. We could go into that with marketing, whenever you want to do that. And then my partner, Annie, she runs the day-to-day operations, and I help when it needs to be done. I help with some sales training and some stuff like that, but she manages the day-to-day, but she's gone for 2 weeks and I am managing the day-to-day currently. So
how's that going?
It's interesting. I just haven't done it for a while. So, having to help underwrite comp properties, just put out the fires, make sure stuff's getting closed. I've done it for so long. It's just second nature, but I appreciate her more when I have to get back into it for sure.
Yeah, totally. You're back in the weeds, right? So 12 to 18 properties a month, that's a serious amount of volume. Are you assigning all these properties or you're going to close on the best ones and stick them on the MLS and rehab them?
Yep. That's what I was going to transition to next. We have like 5 flips that we currently have. So Some of them we just can't sell for the price we need. So let's say there's tenants in there and people can't get access, or they're giving us lower numbers and we've been in the house. We'll just take them down. And so our strategy right now is take them down, relist them as is on the MLS for about 10 days. If we don't get our price, then we'll rehab them, fix them, and put them back to the market.
Okay. So you're doing like try to wholesale. If that doesn't work, then wholesale. Then if that doesn't work, rehab. So rehab's like the last option.
Yes.
That's funny. That's awesome. What do you say your success rate is? Like, because I'll tell you what, like I stopped really wholesaling a lot of my properties and I've been putting them on the MLS as is. And I've been like 4 to 5Xing my profits, sometimes doing a light rehab, but I'm just like, and the whole dispositions process is taken away because the realtor sells it. So at least in my market in New York, I see that has been very profitable for me, especially because the houses are a little bit more expensive.
Yeah.
So what would you say the percentage of deals you're putting on the MLS are selling right away wholesale, and how many are you going to have to actually rehab to get the, the profit you want?
Dude, we just started this whole month.
Oh, you just started? Oh, yeah. It's been a while.
Normally we were just rehabbing them, and now we're trying to. It kind of stemmed from you a little bit to where you're like, yo, this is what I'm doing. And I have some other friends as well.
Yeah.
So we're like, you know what's 10 days, just throwing it up there and seeing if we get a bite.
Yeah.
But I think our market's a little different than yours, to where your investors want to buy deeper.
Yeah, that's a problem. The wholesale fees, you have to steal the house to make some real money wholesaling it.
But so we're normally able to wholesale stuff and get our, margins we want. Because like the wholetailing, we're not going to make a ton more. But sometimes, as I said, it's more situational. Like if we need to get a tenant out and then, get it cleaned up, not just, just a quick clean and then still sell it as is. We're kind of testing still to see what's going to be perfect. As I said, the markets are getting, tougher to find deals, and we're trying to find the best way to optimize and maximize our profits.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think, and that's like the wholesale thing that you said, because I know some guys who, like said what you just said, their wholesale spread and their wholesale spread are so similar. At least in New York, I bet you I'm probably not doing my dispositions the way I could be doing it, right? So I'm probably screwing that up. But at least from what I've seen, like like an example would be like if I can make 10 grand wholesaling the deal, I can probably make 35, 40 closing on the MLS. And like for me, like, yeah, do I have to wait another 30, 40 days because the sales cycle's long? Yes, but like that's totally worth it because that's the same lead that I got. And I bought it at the same price, but yet the profit is 3 to 4X. So for me, I'm like, I'd rather just do that and then, make more money on the same lead. But
I would do it all day. Mine's like maybe 2X. So
yeah, it's interesting.
Wholesale for 10, sell it for 20. And normally it's because we can't even get like the 10. Sometimes it's just like we can't even get what we need because people want access, or they're like, oh, the tenant, and they're scared to buy it. It's normally tenant occupied is the stuff we'll take down, get the tenant out. Or even if it's a long-term tenant, we'll negotiate like, yo, here's an extra $2,000 if you're out in 30 days. And all these people are month-to-month living. They're like, hell yeah. I'm like, your security deposit comes back. I'll give you, between $1,000, $2,000. It's all a negotiation. I've never had someone say no, ever.
Really? And you see a lot of those, there's month-to-month leases. They're not like, they're month-to-month like situations. They're not on like 12-month leases where you have to either honor the lease or buy them out of the lease.
Yeah, we have those too, but it's still just getting the access is a pain in the ass, getting multiple buyers through. So we're just like, we'll just buy it and figure it out. It's just, it's not worth the time on the disposition side of having the tenant be mad. And then when the tenant's there, they're telling the buyers everything that's wrong with the property because they don't want to move out.
Yep.
So I'm just like, you know what, let's try this wholesale strategy. I think it's going to work a little bit better.
Yeah, and then my royalty check comes in the mail, right, for the intellectual property. I'm kidding. I did not invent the wholesale strategy. I heard some dude talk about it. I'm like, let me try this. So.
No, I've done it before. We're just doing it more now. And then you just sparked. It's just you and other people are just like, we're doing this, and it's good to pivot and test. Like I will test and try anything. I want to know what's going to work the best, and you can't do it without trying in your market because each market, as you know, is different.
That's so true. It's so true. And it's like, it's even like the thing too with that. And I agree with that. It's that at least for me, when I can control the house, like if I'm negotiating with someone and I'm the one who's going to buy their house and I'm closing, I have number one, it's going to make me be much more disciplined on my offer because I'm the one ultimately buying and not the end buyer. Right. And number two, I just got a deal last week where I'm getting it $15,000 less than the other investor. and they're coming, like the seller's coming to the table with more money to have, they're basically paying me to buy the house, or they're paying to have me buy the house because we're going to close. You know what I mean? So like it gives sometimes investors an advantage. If you're listening to this, if you can close on these properties and you know what you're doing, you know, it's going to give you an advantage over the competition, because you can sometimes kick the wholesalers under the bus if you know you're going to close on it. So there's just a little tactic you could do there. So let's kind of pivot to the marketing side. So obviously you're doing a lot of volume. That's awesome in a tough market. What are you doing like to attract your leads? Because, you know, there's so many ways we could talk about marketing, but what is like, you know, Jesse doing to get a consistent flow of leads to make bids on?
So we send out love letters. No, I'm just kidding.
Same. I got yours now.
No, honestly, I mean, me and you've talked about this off camera, but you know, we're pretty much brute force. We're doing, it's all, you know, SMS, cold calling, and RVMs. Like that's all we do. We don't have any PPC or anything going on right now. It's just all telecommunication based. And, you know, we're lucky enough to, you know, be able to get skip tracing for a good price. And then we're able to, you know, really dominate, you know, our marketing with knowing what we're doing, and all the systems and products that, you know, I own. It helps our company like very much.
That's awesome. And I like how you kind of shared the whole, like you're doing telecommunication marketing. So I just want to confirm with you so the listeners can hear this. You're not sending a lick of direct mail at all.
None.
So you're sending 0 mail units every month.
None.
Wow.
Well, besides love letters to you, but that's.
Well, I know. I get those. Those are priority mail. Come on. I have to sign off on those, you know. It's like the – anyway. So there's three – so you just hit three – the three ways you're telemarketing are the RVM, the text, and the cold call. What would you say right now is your favorite? Because I want to make sure that my listeners are getting some tactical, you know, advice that they can, you know, learn, and then they can apply this right away. So what is your favorite? Let's kind of deep dive on one of them for the show today.
I would say texting is my favorite, but I like all of them because they all come in cycles. You just have to stay consistent. So if I could get anything across to your listeners, it's being consistent with what you're doing. Because I have a lot of people that are saying cold calling is hard, which a lot of people are doing. And then it's getting out there saying, everybody's like, oh, it's so tough now, it's dead. Well, we've kept it the same, and people that stop doing it, that means more deals that we're going to get. So we've stayed consistent with our marketing. Some months are slower. Like we had a month where we got 2 deals from cold calling. We spent about $9,000 a month. So that's $4,500 a deal, which is very expensive. And we stayed to it. And the next month we got 6 cold call deals. So then our cost dropped down to, what is that? $1,200, $1,300 a deal.
Ridiculous. And that's phenomenal.
So I guess I'm going on a tangent right here, but what I'm saying is be consistent with what you're doing. Obviously pivot and tweak it because stuff changes, but I think the consistency is the key. And going to that, the texting, it's just, you're going to get more people respond. More people are going to look at their phone and see a text message and answer a phone number they don't know, or listen to a voicemail. So that's why I think texting is the best for telecommunications.
So text message marketing. Okay. So we'll pick texting to do the deep dive on. So you're doing the text message marketing. So are you pulling, because I'm sure listeners are like, all right, well, what, there's a million people we can text. What type of lists are you sending these text messages to? And then after we talk about the lists, I want to spend some time talking about like, what does a texting campaign look like? Something that like someone can implement and then they can start tracking. Because I think a big issue why a lot of marketing doesn't work, especially for new investors, is that they don't have the right expectations going in on how many units they have to send, whether it's texting units or whether that's mail units. So I think if we can equip them with the right expectations for texting, maybe that's a channel that could give them success. So what type of lists are you targeting? Because there's so many ways you can skin the cat with the actual data.
Okay. So as I said, we're kind of mass marketers. So we start in Phoenix, which is our main market, is we pulled the whole entire county and skip traced it up to, we had a few criteria. It was $450,000 assessed value, and then not bought within the last year. That was it. So
450,000 and under, you mean?
Yes.
Okay. So okay.
For assessed value and hasn't been bought in last year or sold in last year.
Okay.
So, wow. That's it. It costs us hundreds of thousands of dollars to do this. but it's something that we're able to use. This list we're able to use for a year. And then from there, what we do if we want to go into niche lists. So now we pretty much have the whole database we want, right? Not a lot of people could afford that. So I'm going to get to my point here is what we do is we have a batch lead stacker, which is a list stacking software. And what we do is we upload raw data niche lists. So we get a code violation list. We have a tax lien list. We have a tax default list. We have an HOA, violation list. And we upload those into our lead stacking software and pull out. So we pretty much have all the phone numbers and addresses already. So we're just pulling the phone numbers out and doing campaigns from there. Does that make sense?
Interesting. So you're taking the big data set, the massive data set from the county, from Maricopa County.
And pulling niche lists and putting niche lists into it and pulling them out for marketing campaigns. So we have a big database list going always at one time. And then we're having all these little niche lists that we're sending targeted campaigns to with text message, cold calling, and RVM. So our texting will even be more specific, especially like if it's raw land, we're saying, hey, we're developers, we're buying land in this area. We saw that you've owned this for a while and haven't developed on it. Are you interested in selling? So we're getting a little bit more specific with our text messages to differentiate, and it makes it sound more personable to where somebody may respond to it. So that's something we're seeing success with right now as well.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So are you, so with that being said, how many text messages are you sending out, or is your team sending out on like let's go with a daily basis, because then everyone else can just kind of reverse engineer the math to see how many monthly texts you're probably sending. So like on a daily basis, like how many texts are going out to people who are receiving these to then, inquire if they're interested?
About 6,000 to 10,000.
10,000 texts a day.
Yes.
So I'm going to assume that there's a response right there of about 15%. Am I pretty far off there?
Little lower in Phoenix, probably 8 to 10.
So let's say 10,000 times 0.08. So you're getting 800 people that are raising their hand.
Well, most of them are saying not nice things to you, but
yeah. Okay.
I would say someone that's truly interested is probably about 2 to 3%. So we're going to get, of someone that's willing to sell their house, we're getting, I would say, 30 or 20 to 30 a day of some type of interest, but most of that's retail. So we're spending that much money on a text every single day, and we're getting 2 to 3 to 4 truly interested people. But that's a lot if you add it over by a week and a month, and that's how we're doing the deal flow that we're doing. We're getting anywhere from probably 6 to 10 text deals a month.
That's incredible. And are you that's insane. So because if you think about it, it's just truly a numbers game. So you're getting those people who are seriously interested, then you're negotiating. What are you getting a lot of those? Like, I'll tell you, the best deals that I do usually are not ones that are coming in right away. They're follow-up leads. So are you seeing with your texting campaigns, like, number one, are you texting the same audience once a month like you do with direct mail, or are they getting a text until they respond? Because I feel like people definitely want to know that answer.
Yes. So that's a great question. So thank you for asking it. So we are touching them in 6 weeks, anywhere from like 6 to 8 times. And that's not just with text. So we're texting. I will not text them more than once every 3 weeks personally. So even if you have niche campaigns, don't hound them too much. And we'll touch them 4 to 5 times. But we've had people reach out on our 3rd or 4th text message. You're in a timing bubble. So somebody just maybe isn't ready to respond to you, or they could say no tomorrow. But if I hit them again in 4 months, they might say, yeah. That's
so true. And it's funny you say that. I had a deal I did in Dallas a couple months ago, and it was the same thing. They got my text from 3 months before, and they respond 3 months later, hey, you still buying properties? I got your text saved on my phone. We're ready to sell, So like, it's so critical to make sure that you're hitting them more than once. But like you said, you're not peppering them, like every day they're getting a text message, because then they're going to start to get.
No, every 3 to 4 weeks. So we'll hit them 3 times every 3 weeks. And then we put them into our big database, and our big database is so big, as I told you, they're only going to get hit maybe once a quarter, because we have 500,000 phone numbers in that, large equity, or just whatever you want to call it, database.
Yeah.
So we'll hit the niche stuff, 3-4 times in a 2-month period or 2.5-month period. And then if they don't respond, we send that over to our big list, and they're just slowly getting tapped on, is how we do it.
Okay. No, that's interesting. That's really that's a lot. That's like really like, because the whole texting thing, it's like the new hot thing. A lot of people are talking about it, but like I feel like not a lot of people like are sharing like their actual like blueprint, their systems. Like, what are your like? How are we texting them? How often are we texting them? So I'm glad
Right.
we're able to have this conversation now. Are you now when these texts are going out? Are the initial response? I'm sure there's a VA or someone kind of filtering, okay, screw you, never, that's going to get suppressed, versus, hey, yeah, I'd take an offer. That's a lead in that situation. So you have a VA who's kind of the gatekeeper that's separating your buyer from, the tire kickers?
So we had two VAs doing it, and as they're filtering through and then pushing them over to our acquisitions, we actually came to find out that time of when they actually get it over to our acquisitions, that conversation's actually almost dead and it's hard to re-engage it.
Wow.
So we decided, and this was my acquisition guys. They're like, no, we'll just take them. Like we'll figure it out. Because when someone messages you and they're engaged then, and that's your chance. So if you're waiting 30 minutes or an hour, or for whatever reason, the VA goes on a break. So we found a disconnect, and we were like, why are we getting so many less text deals? And we took a deep dive into what was going on. And our response time from when the VA does their qualifying to our acquisition rep getting back in there, it was too long and it was affecting our numbers. So we decided to have our other VAs vet out the cold calling and the RVMs more, personally handle more text messages. So it's that's just what we saw, but a lot of people do it to where they have VAs and then start pushing it over to a buying specialist rep or acquisition.
Yeah. That's interesting. It's funny because you think with like a text message, it wouldn't be that urgent, like a PPC lead, you want to call back right away because they're finding you. But it's funny you say like, when you look at the data, the text messaging is very similar. Like when they're ready to go, you got to go now, or else I'm sure they've gotten this in the first text they've gotten, usually if they're in Phoenix. I mean, let's be honest with ourselves,
Yeah. Or else it's just, they think that you're like a fraud or full of shit. If they respond to you and you're not instantly responding and engage in that conversation, then why would they want to do business with you? If you're not on the ball, they're like, okay, well, this person spent 5 hours to get back to me after I asked them a simple question after we exchanged a few messages. I don't want to work with them. Like I would be the same way. I'd be like, screw this. Like they're not for real. So like we're on it and they're on it. Like they're involved in the conversation. They're trying to push them to a phone call or schedule something same day and figure out if we have a deal or no deal.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. So let's kind of pivot now too. So we took a deep dive in texting. So in terms of your home buying process, I remember I was in your office and we were chatting, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, you're buying most of your deals over the telephone in your own market. Is that true?
Yes.
Over the phone. So Jesse is in one of the most competitive markets in the country, buying houses in his own market, or his team, sorry, is buying houses in his own market on the phone. And this is something that, once again, a lot of people are starting to do now, and a lot of people were very, very reluctant to do this model, including yours truly, until I realized that the best deals I've ever bought were freaking over the damn telephone. I'm like, what am I doing here? So what do you think holds a lot of people back from changing their model to at least doing 95% of the business over the phone, and then they're going to the house to confirm what they've seen, or it's a seller who's like 1,000 years old and they've never heard of a computer?
Right. We go sometimes, but honestly, I think it's a little bit of a mindset, to be completely honest with you. You got to believe that you could do it. And until you've done a bunch of it, then you haven't. You got to remember, when I first started, we were doing a ton of virtual markets. So that's all I knew is over the phone. Like, your acquisition reps have to believe you have a process of how you do it. And that's how it goes. Like if your or whoever's buying the house is confident on the phone and builds good rapport, which you could do on the phone.
Easily. You can build better rapport on the phone.
So then you're just like, hey, this is how we work. You've told me all that I need to know about the house. I've ran my numbers with, our underwriting department, and, actually, how our process works. So I explain that to you. But I'm just using this for an example.
Yeah, in general,
is pretty much this is what we're going to do. This is what we agreed upon, and then we'll get under contract, then we'll go verify making sure everything you said was correct, and we'll move forward from there. That's that. It's not that confusing. There's obviously a lot of techniques that you need to do before presenting your offer, as me and you've discussed, but you just have your process. This is how it goes. And if people believe you're confident and you know how to do business, they will work with you. They don't need to be in front of you. And some people don't want to meet you and don't want to go through the hassle of all the shit. So I think it's just situational, because we do go on some appointments. We do our best not to, though, because we have a process and it works.
Yeah. And that's all that matters. I mean, it's funny you say that, because a lot of people are like, oh, well, you can't beat a face-to-face interaction, which I agree with. Yeah. If you're like pound for pound, yeah, if you go in person and the seller wants to meet you, is there a better chance you might get the deal over in person? Maybe that might be the case. But to drive in the Phoenix heat or the San Diego heat or the Texas heat,
yeah,
no-show go on, your sales guy's driving an hour there, an hour back. The seller never met him, so he really pissed away 2 hours. He could have been on the phone with 35 sellers and made 10 bids by then.
That's our whole point.
Yeah.
We have a lot of leads, and we don't have time to go on every single appointment. So we make that very clear. It's like, hey, we're working on a lot of deals. This is how many more we're buying this month. If you want to do business, this is how we do business. If they're really old or that's super situational, sure, we'll go out there. But most of the time, you're supposed to be the leader, especially when we're negotiating a deal. If they're making all the decisions, and it's probably not going to be a deal in the first place.
I couldn't agree with you more, man. I just got a deal today over the phone, and the guy was like, don't you want to meet me here? I'm like, no, I want to get the price first, and then once we figure out the price, I'll have my buddy go look at it. But like, and another thing too is like, if the seller is a disqualified lead and they're retail, why would you go to the house to realize that's the case? I'd rather find that out on the phone, and then if I'm going to go there, at least they're qualified. Like, and there's different ways. People have different thoughts on this, but like, in my opinion, why go to a house? Why drive an hour there to meet with someone who's disqualified, to where you could have had that conversation on the phone and you could have figured that out in 10 minutes. And like, the objection to that is always, oh, well, you never know until you go. Yeah. I agree with that. But I think if you're going to take a statistical like data set, maybe 1 out of 10 is going to get you the freaking, this is going to be the person who was hiding their cards. I'd rather talk to 10 extra sellers than deal with a 1 out of 10, because I'm a numbers guy. Yep. So like, it doesn't make any sense. Any way you slice it, I think the phone model is much more efficient if you're doing high volume.
I was going to say, it's the only way to scale. You could only go on so many appointments every day.
Yeah. And it's time, and going on appointments is a lot. Like, it's a lot of actual work. Like, you're driving around, you're dealing with traffic. When you're in the appointment, now that's the only thing you're focused on. So now your phone's blowing up. When you get back to your car, you have all these missed calls. It gets crazy. And I think it burns a lot of people out. So I'm glad we kind of covered the whole buying over the phone versus buying in person, especially in your market of Phoenix, because I feel like I know personally like 8 people in Phoenix who are doing more than like 8 deals a month. And I don't understand how that works, but it works. So I'm not going to ask any questions.
We train the sellers. They all want to sell off market. So there's tons of deals for everybody.
Yeah, it's awesome. And you guys are all like friends, and like there's like meetup. It's like, it's so cool. Like, but in New York, it's not like that. It's not how we roll in New York. So awesome. So let's kind of pivot here to like the end of the show, Jesse. And I appreciate you being so genuine and open with your knowledge, because I'm sure a lot of listeners got a lot of good ideas so far. So, let's condense this down. So, you've been in business for a while. What's the best lesson that you've learned just from everything, because there's certain marketing lessons and leadership lessons. If you had to condense it all down to one central, as Brian Tracy says, focal point, what's your biggest lesson that you've learned that has allowed you to be successful consistently?
Having the go-giver mindset, 100%.
What's the go-giver mindset, if someone didn't know that? Because
you know what it is.
Well, what is it? I'm just saying, someone might not know what that is listening. So what is that mindset?
So it's the mindset of giving and helping and manifesting. So like the people that you're around, you're helping, you're not helping for a purpose of yourself gaining, you're helping to help. And it kind of just snowballs and trickles. So it's kind of giving. The go-giver mindset is something I'm really big on. And in turn, that kind of leads to collaboration as well, is I've got to meet so many people and collaborate and help each other. And that's part of kind of the go-giver mindset, is we're all helping each other genuinely, even though we're competitors and, all these different things on why we shouldn't help each other. If you really believe that we all lift each other up together and we keep getting better, and the people that are hiding and not sharing and keeping everything to themselves, they're learning less than I am. So
100%.
I think it's really funny when I meet somebody and they hold everything close to the vest, and I'll give everything away. Like, I am that type of person because I expect that out of other people and the people in my circle to help me as well. And it has by far changed my life in so many different aspects. I couldn't be more appreciative of the people I have around me and all the stuff I have going on because of it.
I love that, man. It's so true because I think, people have that scarcity mindset, and it's like, here's another like that, by the way, that was pure gold. I mean, I think a lot of people get reluctant to share their information, but like at the end of the day, even if you share the information, you still have to go out and implement it, which is the hardest part. Right. So most people, like, how many people know, how to like do the South Beach diet, but they don't do it? Or how many people know that
I know how to lose weight, but I have not done that recently. So
yeah, or like, I know how to send mail, or I know how to, put out bandit signs, but are you doing it? I know I should read, but are you doing it? So like, that's another thing. Most people aren't even going to do what you say. You can go to the best seminar in the world. Someone could listen to this podcast, which you gave them so much value today, right?
Yeah.
And they're going to probably play it and, oh, it was a good show. And maybe they'll implement something, I hope. But most of the time, that's not the case. So like, if you share, it's not like it's really, you're not going to have someone breathing down your neck, most likely, And
if they do, then there's enough for all of us, dude. I truly, truly believe that. Like, man, like I'm very blessed, and I want to help as many people as I can as well. And the people that I do give some advice to and run with it, oh man, dude, I just keep giving and giving because it is so fun to see somebody just grow and just crush it. Like I've had some friends that have just went from a deal or two a month to doing like almost our level volume in other markets. And I'm just like, dang, dude, like I was able to help them for one, which makes me feel good. So, and then for two, like, changing someone's life and seeing them just put the effort and the work in, it's so rewarding on my part too, just to know that I'm able to help people because, that's something I like to do.
That's amazing, man. So you just kind of set me up in a good spot now. So I know you recently you're a little bit more I think structured now with the way that you help people. So I just talk a little bit about, I think did you just launch a coaching program, or you're in the middle of launching it? Because I know you weren't doing that for a while. And now I think you decided to just say, you know what, let's make this official. So would you mind sharing information about that if people are interested?
Yeah, it's called the Data is King Academy, and it's literally, we have I believe it's 5 modules on all the stuff we just talked about. So it's how to implement cold calling, RVM, SMS. We have some tactical sales stuff, some mindset stuff, and then it's about 60 videos. It's really good about showing you how to actually set up all the systems and processes. But the best part is every other week, me and Evo are jumping on Zoom calls, helping you with your business, anything wholesale related. It could be, with how to train people, what you need for hiring, anything. Like we've built a pretty big operation. And I think that's where even more value is going to come from, is just mentoring people and teaching them or having them learn from our mistakes so we could tell them what not to do as well, because we've made our fair share of mistakes and I don't want people to make something that I've already made if I could help them.
I love that. That's awesome. Well, it's good that you started that. So what is it? DataIsKingAcademy.com?
Yes. No, it's actually, if you go to reisquad.com, it's the Data King Academy's in there. We're working on multiple stuff. So we're going to have like a wholesaling 101 out in the next couple of weeks as well, to try and help some of the newer people on the right ways to get started. Because a lot of people, as you said, will listen to these podcasts and go to these meetups and they don't know how to implement or do anything. I want to show them, be like, yo, this is probably where you should get started. And these are the steps you need to take.
It's so important. That's awesome. I have the link in there for the show notes. And then one more thing before we wrap the show up, Jesse, you've been very generous with your knowledge and your go-giver mindset on my show today. I really appreciate that. I know you have another company that is that I'm a customer of. I think it's the Batch brand, but so there it's the Stacker.
Yep.
And then, by the way, I did a fat deal off a vacant house from the whole Smarty Street system or whatever. And, big deal off that. So what are those other 2 companies you have? Because they're good products. You guys have a serious business in that, I guess vertical as well. So
yeah,
what kind of sparked you to start that too? Because that's interesting, because everyone, nowadays, is like a serial entrepreneur, but very rarely are they successful on all the businesses, and you're successful in every business that you have, which is awesome.
Well, all of it stemmed from helping ourselves, our own wholesale operations become better. So we first started off with a skip tracing company. We have our own proprietary software and skip tracing stuff. It's batchskiptracing.com. A lot of people have heard of it. I think it's one of the bigger ones in the industry, but we really pride ourselves on giving the best data we can. It's the data that we use. It's the data that you use. A lot of big players use. We make sure we're, leading the industry and making sure people are getting the best phone numbers. And that kind of compounded into people asking for lists. So now we provide lists as well. Excuse me. And also what you're referring to is we have a way to organize all your data now and get vacants, and that's called batchleadstacker.com. And that is, I would say, the most powerful tool out of all of them, because you're able to keep track and organize all of your addresses and phone numbers, even skip traced or not skip traced, but it shows you, what's vacant, what's absentee. You're able to, as you said, stack your lists and see multiple pain points to try and really target those most motivated sellers out there, which you've already been very successful at.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you say the whole vacant thing. This is something, you said the whole go giver mindset earlier. I'll just be a go giver real quick. I mean, to all the investors listening right now, if you are on a tight budget and you want to get a deal quick, you need to be targeting vacant houses only. Like it for some reason, I just think that is not talked enough about in this business. Maybe after this podcast it will be. But you need to take every list that you get. You can flag for vacant houses using, there's many ways you can do it, but the easiest way, in my opinion, the way I do it is I use Batch Lead Stacker. You can flag the house and it will tell you if it is vacant, and usually they're actually vacant. You can go on Google Street View and check.
Well, it's truly vacant, because if you pull a vacant list, just to let the listeners know, it's like 60 to 75% accurate. With our stuff, we're plugged into the United States Postal Office. They're letting us know if this house is truly vacant or not. And as you know, have you had it for longer than a month now? Because it updates monthly with the new.
Yeah, I have. It's crazy. I'm like, holy crap, I didn't know this was vacant. Yeah, and they go right into my queue for the caller to call. That's funny.
Yep.
And I'm telling you, the fattest deals I've done, and I'm sure most investors can agree with this, the fattest properties where the margins were the largest were always vacant properties, because you got to think about it from a seller's perspective. If you have a truly vacant house, there's already a problem because it had to go vacant for a reason, right? And it's easier to wholesale them. It's easier to wholesale them. It's easier to rehab them. You can basically start to rehab before you close on it, right? Yeah. So well, I wouldn't do that actually. So don't take that.
Yeah. No, that's a no.
Yeah, I'm just kidding. Hey, Sally, I put your new kitchen in. I'm not the owner yet, but anyway. So Batch Leads, I got all those in the show notes. So Jesse, thank you. And then if people wanted to find you directly, I almost forgot, what would be the best way for people to connect with Jesse Burrell from Phoenix? If they were
obviously Facebook would be great. And then Real J Burrell for my Instagram handle. I'm trying to switch that to my first and last name. So you can still just look me up, with Jesse Burrell on Instagram, because I'm trying to get that handle. She's just asking for a lot of money for me to get that Instagram handle, so I'm negotiating.
I was going to say, how many fake Jesse Burrells are out there? Like, will the real Jesse Burrell please stand up, like that Eminem song?
Well, I just want my handle just to be my first and last name, so it's even easier to get a hold of me. So,
what is she charging a big fee? She wants like 10 grand for you to swap it?
She's at like 1,000 right now. I'm working her down. My top number is 400.
Grind her down.
I'm at 200 still. I'm sitting strong. I'm like, do you really need this handle?
That's insane. That's crazy. You can make a full-time career, I bet, flipping domain names. I bet, if you really got good at it. I mean, seriously.
Oh, for sure. It's a business. It absolutely is a business.
It's crazy, man. I think I bought GregHelbeck.com for like $40 or something, or whatever the market price was. My one buddy was like, he's like, that's a good idea. You can like bet on domain. I'm not saying my domain name is going to be massive, but like in general, like you could find like general terms, like, random ass things, and then you could pretty much bid on them and then sell them off like in 10 years when maybe, I don't know, but that's a whole other podcast. That's after hours.
Yeah, so. Dude, we're talking to him about our future business together.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we're going to plant the seed here. So Jesse, thanks so much for coming on the show. It's been an honor. You've been very generous with your time. I'm sure some people are going to be checking out your products and reaching out to you personally. So thank you so much, man. I hope you have a great day, and we will talk soon.
All right, Greg. Appreciate it.